My name's Paul Sippel. I'm from Oswest Seeds based out of Tamworth, northern New South Wales, covering the Hunter Valley and areas out through Dubbo, Moree and the like. I've been asked to speak today about planting depth and really how that affects pastures. I'm not going to talk about cereals so much, cropping and the like, but I want to talk about pastures, forage oats and the like. Now it comes to what's important about planting depth. There's two things that it gives you for a start. First up, with fast establishment, it means that you've got that plant out of the ground, making the use of moisture that you need. That way it can compete with the weeds and give you a much more vigorous plant to start with. From a longer point of view, what that also means, and especially with forages like we're looking at here, what it means is that you'll get faster to first grazing. So to me, that's the two main things that you'll get out of the correct planting depth for establishment. With that in mind, there's 3 or 4 things that come into it with regards to getting your correct planting depth. So first up is your seed size. So if you've got a little seed like a white clover or a lucerne plant, which we're looking at through here today, you've got to go quite shallow because that seed just doesn't have enough energy to push through any depths of soil. So it needs to go into a well-prepared seed bed that's fine and firm, but not too deep because it just hasn't got the push to get out. Compare that to something like an oat seed or a barley seed. You can punch it into a depth of 3 or 4 centimetres if you need to get that low onto moisture, and that will still punch through because you've got enough energy levels to be able to, for that seed to be able to come up through that amount of soil. So the next critical thing that I think plays a big role with determining what depth you're going to sow is the actual seed bed you've got to work with, whether you're sowing into as we are here, into a prepared bed where it's been built up to be nice and firm and there's moisture underneath, or alternatively, if you're going into direct drill into just a sprayed out situation, which is pretty common down here in the Hunter, where your chemical fallow has created a bed underneath that's going to be reasonably firm for you to start with. So in that situation, you're looking at putting that seed down onto that moisture zone without putting it too far deep into it. And the third thing that comes into it then, as we see a lot of in the Hunter and especially further towards the coast, is where you're sowing into a mulched situation. So that's difficult. You need to, if you're going to mulch it, sow into say a kikuyu paddock, whether you mulch first and then broadcast on top, what you're trying to do is to beat the lack of seed soil contact by actually weight of numbers. So you end up probably bouncing your seeding rate up by 10 to 15%. So if you would normally sow 30 kilos of ryegrass into a drilled situation, if you're going to spread it on top, you're going to lose a certain amount of that. So you might opt to go to 45 kilos. And that's why commonly down here, the seeding rates are a lot higher than what you might see for guys that have a little bit better prepared seed beds in some situation. The main thing with soils, and you don't see it so much here, but if you plant too deep, regardless of the variety or the type of plant you're putting in, if you've got hard setting clays and you're likely to get rainfall, you need to be really mindful that you don't plant it too deep, or otherwise that seed won't be able to come up through it. So your soil types there varies a little bit with granite soils. In granite soils, you probably need to go down a little bit deeper so that you can get that seed soil contact rather than sitting in that sand on top. So that plays a big role. And then as we look at here, it's the amount of moisture that you've actually got stored soil moisture to work with as well. So if you've got a paddock where there's nice moisture available, you don't have to go down too deep to chase it. And so a more shallow seeding in most times will create a good effect. This season's probably been fairly varied with how we've gone for rainfall, and I've seen some interesting effects with the problems that we've had or issues by planting at the wrong depth. So one thing I've seen was a winter wheat paddock that was sown into perfect moisture, perfect timing. And what's happened is the guy was using his machine for the first time, probably had the back deeper than what he should have had at the front so that the combine wasn't level. and he's ended up with the back tines, the seed having to come from probably 2 to 3 centimetres deeper than what it needed. And it's been a lot later to establish. The stuff that was sown in the correct depth, out of the ground 7 days, the stuff that was sown too deep only just was struggling through after 13 or 14 days. So that's where your loss of vigour from that seedling takes a long time to recover.